What's up, YouTube? This is Too Raw for TV. All right, so before I get into this video, I want to give a shout out to the brother Aram for the donation to the channel via the PayPal. Much respect to you for showing love. Salute to you. Also want to give a shout out to David Lafayette for the $10 donation via the PayPal. He leaves a note saying, "Happy belated birthday to Rockalypse. I'll be 41 this year, and I agree with what you said in the video, not knowing if you'll reach 40. I remember in the 90s and always hearing the news in Milwaukee constantly saying we are an endangered species and most likely won't reach age 21. That had me shook up at age 10. I love your content, even the ones that don't get many views and the ones I don't fully agree with at all. It demonstrates the fact that you have your own mind and are willing to be honest and authentic, even at the risk of offending and losing others. I like the fact that you point out Archie Bunker was a racist, but was very entertaining. Many people have a black and white view on things, but you understand people aren't so simplistic. Our most beloved leaders and entertainers may have views or have done things that would disappoint and disgust most people. Yet these people have left their marks on a generation. Sorry for the long message, and hopefully you'll be blessed with another 44 years. Okay. It wasn't too long, man, and I really appreciate that that you listen to my videos. And sometimes I think some of the better videos I've done have been the ones that only get 400, 500 views. You know. Sometimes I think people just read the titles and react to that and don't really listen much to the content. But I'm glad that my message get across to people like you that we're not just, a monolith. We're not just people to check off groups, and we all have complex thoughts and ideas. Salute to you. I want to talk politics for a second. And I got some requests to talk politics. And we're getting to that time of the year, this being an election year, to talk more about politics. So look, there's this misconception that I'm a Trump supporter. And it's not that I'm a Trump supporter. It's that I'm telling you things from my perspective as to what's going wrong with the Democratic Party. If this was 30 years ago, if this was 40 years ago, I would have been a fervent supporter of the Democratic Party. Definitely this was 50, 60 years ago. Even then, even though I would have been fans of some Republicans back then. There was a liberal wing of the Republican Party back then. The problem with the Democratic Party now is that many of the leaders were in the past either Southern Democrats, i.e. Blue Dog Democrats, or just a notch below what we would call Dixiecrats. These are individuals who, in the 60s and even in the early 70s, didn't even support black rights. Didn't support it. Now, many of those individuals went over to the Republican Party, but some of them didn't. Some of them stayed allied with the Democrats or may have moved to the John Birch Society or something like that. But don't forget that Joe Biden used to be friends with Strom Thurmond. Used to be friends, crossed over the aisles and was friends with people like Strom Thurmond, who left the party basically because of civil rights. Was a great friend of Jesse Helms, who was a conservative, bigoted Republican. Was great friends. Gave the eulogy at the funeral of Robert Byrd, who was a former Klansman. But when I say these things, people don't, it's not connecting with people. They're not listening to me because they've been so brainwashed by the Democratic Party to see someone who says anything negative about the Democratic Party who happens to be black as somehow a sellout or I'm somehow preaching the virtues of the Republican Party. I'm not doing that. What I'm trying to get you to do is look at the evils that have now permeated throughout the Democratic Party. This is not the same party of Lyndon Johnson. This is not the same party of RFK. It's not the same party of Hubert Humphrey or Walter Mondale. It's not the same party. The party has ended for us, to be honest with you. So I say all that to say this. Donald Trump did something recently that at least shows that he's trying. He's trying. Donald Trump became the first Republican presidential candidate in recent memory to visit the inner city of Detroit. I can't think of one that's done that. The last time that might have been done was maybe Richard Nixon. And if not Nixon, then that might have been 60. If not Nixon, then I don't know when the last time that happened. Maybe since the Roosevelt era. You know, Reagan didn't do it. He visited the inner city. Barack Obama never visited the inner city. Joe Biden only visited Detroit to do a fundraiser at a spunky and glitzy area, not the inner city, aka the hood. Donald Trump went to the hood. Now, it may have been a photo op, it may have been just for votes, but he did something that no candidate has done in a long time. He visited the inner city of Detroit, and he gave a 20-minute speech, which was followed by a roundtable discussion with local Democratic leaders. And he spoke about issues affecting the black community, particularly the economy, inflation. He talked about many people's concerns about about crime. He said that he believes that his administration will be the best when it comes to lowering crime in predominantly black neighborhoods. He also spoke about an issue that many black people are concerned about, and that is the southern border. In particular, individuals who are crossing over the border and basically are being deposited in majority black communities and cities. You know, these so-called sanctuary cities like New York City and Chicago. Now remember, liberals will often say, because they're idealists, that we have to improve the living conditions for individuals. And they deserve a chance at life, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But you know, they'll always live miles and miles and miles away from these people. Now, I'm not saying that all these people are bad. They're not. But whenever you're letting people 1,500 to 3,000 every day come in unchecked, basically, almost, over the border, there's bound to be some bad apples. They're not coming in the right way, the legal way, which is through the government process. These people are crossing over. So we're starting to see a rise in crime in these cities. And unfortunately, many of the people who are being victimized are us, but it's not being reported because they don't want to report that. Just the other day in New York City, a 13-year-old girl was assaulted in a wooded area by a suspect, and I'm not going to assume that this person was, you know, an immigrant, but it's strongly implied that that person was. Not to mention there's been other assaults on citizens lately who the perpetrators fit that description. Now, as a black man, I don't normally want to talk like that. But when you constantly see people that look like me or similar to me always being the face of crime, and then you see what's going on, and all of a sudden the media don't want to talk about that, that's the agenda. I also want to talk about the fact that there has been a CNN poll. Now, I've been talking about this for quite some time. You know, if you go back on my channel, if you go back to 2013, there's videos when I was predicting back then that there was going to be a schism in the black community when it came to voting. I was going to say, because of the changes in the Democratic Party, I thought that there would be a splintering in the black vote in the black community. I thought that black women would still predominantly vote Democratic at 90%, even though there's been some erosion there too. But I thought that with black men, there would be a schism, that you would start seeing that percentage drop. And remember, if not mistaken, I think Hillary Clinton only got 80% of the black male vote. Now with Joe Biden, there was a little bit of an uptick to like 85, 84%. But right now, Joe Biden is only polling 70% with black voters. 70%. Meanwhile, Donald Trump is polling at 21%. Now, here we are, because people are waiting for this number to drop. They say, well, this is eventually going to drop, because they think that we're a monolith. They think that we're just mindless drones who just vote for a party because we're supposed to. But these experts, these pollsters are now starting to really they're starting to sweat, because a lot of them, have a liberal bent. And they're starting to panic a little bit, because they're like, well, wait a minute now. How are we going to win? Because they know, unless they can get some of these people that are crossover, a lot of them registered, which would be illegal, by the way, Biden cannot win if he does not get a large turnout of black voters, and B, at least 85% of the black vote. If he's only getting 70%, if Trump gets 20% of the black vote, or 25% of the black vote in certain areas, then you can kiss Michigan goodbye. You can kiss Pennsylvania goodbye. And probably Georgia. Now, what I'm talking about, he will be able to kiss Georgia goodbye, which he only won by like 11 or 12,000 votes. Without those three states, he loses. Not to mention the fact that states like, I think Nevada, if I'm not mistaken, polling shows that Biden is behind in Nevada. Nevada hasn't voted Republican since George Bush in 2004. That had been a blue state. Now it's a toss-up. I think the same thing is happening in New Mexico, because in the Latino community, Biden support is eroding as well. So what I'm saying is, I'm not saying this to endorse Joe Biden. To endorse Donald Trump. I'm talking in a reality sense that the Democratic Party is moving away from being the party for us. In many ways, there's been a flip in some ways. Remember one time the Democratic Party was the party of the working class, the party of the people. Now when you look at many leaders, don't get me wrong, both parties are the parties of the rich. Donald Trump is worth $6 billion. However, he has an appeal to the working class. Sort of like Bush, but even more so. I haven't seen a Republican candidate have this much appeal to the working class since Ronald Reagan. Even though he's wealthy. He speaks like someone who's of the lower class. He doesn't speak in platitudes. He speaks in a way that most people can understand him. And look, I'm not enamored by him, and I'm undecided as a voter, but I know one thing, I'm not voting for Joe Biden. Period. I'm not voting for that guy. I didn't vote for him last time, and I'm not voting for him this time. But what I'm saying is, to wrap up this video, to give another instance of how bad a shape Biden is in, Biden is trailing by 7 to 8 points in Nassau County, the 4th district. That district has not been won by a Republican candidate ever since it's been redrawn, a presidential candidate ever. And I think that goes back 30-something years. It's never been won by a Democratic candidate, ever. Trump's on pace to win that county. So Trump's not going to win New York State. But if Trump gets over 40% of the vote in New York, if he gets 37, 38% of the vote in California, Biden's going to lose. He's going to lose. at least I will say that he did come to Detroit, and he's talking about issues, not just appearing in photo ops with, questionable individuals, doing tokenism things. He's actually sitting down talking about issues. Now, you can say whether he's being real or not. I don't know. But anyway, just want to report that. Tell me what you guys